So I'm Travis McGeathy. I'm the lead game designer for Heroes of the Storm. For a lot of stuff we're talking about here, I was the lead system designer for much of that, the progression update and those kind of things. Heroes of the Storm is at its core a 5v5 competitive game called a brawler or a MOBA you might have heard before. It's doing some things that are a little different than other games in the genre. We've kind of taken it and just kind of embraced the fun. We were looking for quicker matches, something that can be done in about 20 minutes, lots of team fights. We've made it a more team-based experience, so it's got team leveling. You know, anytime you're getting experience, you're getting it for your team. And we also have a large variety of not just heroes, but battlegrounds themselves, including a new one we're talking about today. Each battleground comes with its own objectives, and so gameplay changes slightly from game to game. Like all Blizzard properties, we're trying to find things that are easy to get into but difficult to master. So Heroes is no exception to that. It's pretty easy to pick up. You can get in, you can play for free. I think we're at 64 different heroes now. There's a rotation of 14 that you can get in and play at any time for free. There's a good tutorial experience. You can hop in, you can play versus AI to get your feet wet before getting into competitive modes. And a lot of the stuff we're talking about today is actually taking that free-to-play experience and just building on that, making even more of the game free to get into and enjoy. Okay, so the first hero we're talking about here is Cassia. She's a Diablo 2 Amazon, specifically the Javazon build. I don't know what Jamazon is. The Javazon build that people knew and loved from that game. She's something that we started working on probably like 7 or 8 months ago. She's an anti-auto attack hero, so she's really about dealing with characters like your Rainer, that kind of thing. Her trait is avoidance. While she's moving, she's taking 65% less physical damage, so she's very strong against auto attackers for getting in, getting out, and killing them. She also aligns really well with the 20th anniversary of the Diablo franchise, so we're bringing her out to kind of help celebrate that. So we're expecting her to have a big impact on the game from that perspective. Yeah, we think of Heroes of the Storm as a great place to kind of mash up all the different Blizzard games, a place where you can come together and see, how is Diablo going to fare against Arthas, for instance, and ask those questions. From a process standpoint, the team has a list of literally hundreds of iconic characters from all of the Blizzard franchises that we're looking at to pull from. And it kind of looks at what the game needs at any particular time and what would fit. Like, for instance, if we're looking at we need another healer support type character in the game, like we look at Overwatch, and that's where Lucio comes from, that kind of thing. Probius is an interesting take where we're like, what's the most iconic possible character from the StarCraft universe? Say Protoss. It's the probe itself, right? It's the first thing you see when you get into the game. It's the probe. So we'll make a cool character around that. And then you get into the fantasy of it. Probius has got to be building and that kind of thing. He's got to have his pylons and his turrets, and that's fun stuff. So a lot of it just kind of evolves out from there. But literally we have lists of hundreds of characters from all of the different franchises. Even if your favorite isn't available now, it may be in the future. We also look at what the community is asking for and kind of see where we can align things there too. Sure. So today we're really talking about what we're calling the Heroes of the Storm 2.0 sort of update. And this is a culmination of all of the work we've done in Heroes since launch, or maybe even before launch, and everything that's gone into it. If you look back at where the game was originally and where it is today, it's very different. We've learned a lot over the years. We've iterated and we've improved upon it. With this 2.0 update, we're making even larger additions with the improvements to the progression system, everything comes along with it. But it really goes beyond that. It goes back to all of the heroes we've added, all the hero reworks we've done, the battlegrounds, the additions of ranked play, just even some of the philosophical changes we've made. For instance, the quest talents, now we've kind of embraced those, things that allow you to kind of call out your individual prowess on the battleground and all of that. And then kind of putting a stamp on all of that is this update itself with the update to the progression system and the introduction of loot chests, 5 new item types to really help personalize your gameplay experience and everything that goes along with it. Just continually, we're always trying to continue to improve the game, and I think this is a really good checkpoint for us. We're making games for a global community, not just for the United States, and it's really about embracing that. And so yes, localization is a key aspect of all of this. We're looking at the announcers and the voice lines. Those are all localized. We have fantastic localization teams. When we're doing voiceover lines, all of those things go directly into the localization pipeline and making sure that they're going out there in all the different languages we support. Really, a lot of this just came down to its progression at its core. So we're looking at the progression system and how to improve that and take what we had previously and build upon that. And then everything else kind of comes out from there. Like once we've gotten progression itself into a good spot, we want to have a mechanism that gets a good reward cadence, something we can give out frequently. Loot chests are an obvious one for that because it lets us make use of the great catalog of all the cool things Heroes has made over the years. But we wanted to add more onto it, which is where we get all the new item types that you're talking about. And you know, we're not just developers at Blizzard, we also love Blizzard games. And so we're looking out there to see what else resonates with people and what we love. We love the loot chests or loot boxes from Overwatch. And Hearthstone is also a very good one in that regard as well. When you're getting into that type of system, there are some complexities to it. You want to be protecting against things like bad luck. That's where the shard system comes into play. Hearthstone does that very well. Overwatch does something similar with their currency as well, where you can save up and buy the things you want. We then added our own little twist to it, adding on the rare and epic boxes you can get as part of progression, and the hero-specific ones to make sure that when you're playing a hero, you will be getting periodically items for that hero. That way you're not just at the whims of complete randomness. Things like the ability to re-roll loot chest using gold, for instance. That's another thing. We looked at what was happening previously and like, how do we just improve upon that and sort of embrace what's right for our game. The item types were very similar to that. We wanted to add some more things to help personalize your experience and just more reward types to help give out. The emojis themselves were a hilarious one because internally we use a chat system where you just kind of talk with each other. And of course, emojis pop up in there all the time. We're like, how cool would it be if we had Heroes of the Storm emojis? And so one of the artists just started mocking it up. We're like, this is amazing. Like, can we get these in the hands of players? And StarCraft had actually added emojis into their system recently, and we share a game engine, so we're able to use that technology fairly easily and bring it over to our game. And we started experimenting with it and making all of these emojis for all the different heroes, and they just started popping. Like, these things are incredible. And so we went ahead and made emojis for every character in the game. All the heroes have emojis. And then we're like, how do you manage this? Like, do I have to go in there and manually type out Arthas smile every time I want to have Arthas smile? Like, no, we can do better than that. So what we did was made it so that when you're locked in as one of those heroes, you're playing as one of those heroes, when you type smile and you've got that emoji, it just translates it automatically. So the example I gave earlier was if you're in-game playing as ETC, you type heart, you're gonna get the little ETC and love emoji automatically, assuming you have that emoji pack, and that kind of thing. It's been a lot of fun to play with. Sure, yeah, it's about embracing all the different kinds of players, both the new and the experienced players. The experience curve we had previously was built for the game when it launched 2 years ago, and the game has evolved since then. And so it's really looking at what we can do to make it better today. When we're going into this, we really had one goal, which was we wanted to make progression, make sure it was frequent, that it was meaningful, and that it was rewarding. And the previous system had a few things that were in the way of that. There were level caps in place for both your hero and your player level. So you get to a certain point, you just stopped advancing. As an advanced player, that was level 40. A lot of players got there pretty quickly, and they've been sitting there for a very long time. The other side of that coin were the hero levels, where it became incredibly painful to get those levels at high end. Once you get past level 10 for heroes, it's taking anywhere from like 13 to 15 hours of play to get that hero up. It wasn't frequent. And so it's been addressing all of that. So yeah, it allows the new players to get rapid advancement, but that wasn't a core problem for them before. But at the same time, it allows them to continue advancing at a relatively steady rate, as opposed to what it did before, where the experience curve kind of skyrocketed after a certain time, and it became kind of intimidating to just keep advancing. But then for the experienced player, it allows them to take those heroes that they were having problems with before because it took so long, and see advancement with them again. And then again, the player level, the cap's gone at this point. It's tied to your hero level, so you can just keep advancing as you play. It's a challenge, and it's more of a challenge with each new hero because you've got this growing pool of heroes that you have to be balancing against. Fortunately, our team are pros at this point, and we have a balanced team that's just dedicated to doing exactly that. They're literally just playing things all day long, iterating on it, and trying it out, and going from there. There's an anecdote I like to kind of talk about with Probius, who came out recently, and we got a little flack when he first came out because his win rate was pretty low. And I came in shortly after that, and I turned to the balance guys. I'm like, hey, so you guys got some buffs planned for them? And they're like, no. You know what, we're going to kind of watch him and see how it goes because he's a kind of complicated hero. He takes a little time for people to figure out. We think it's going to climb up. I was a little skeptical, but these guys know what they're doing, so kind of watch it. And sure enough, over the course of that week, his win rate starts climbing and climbing and climbing. And sure enough, at this point, he's now sitting close to a 50%, almost perfect win rate. without any balance adjustments. They've got some things coming to kind of just help out from a utility perspective, but they nailed it. His win rate is exactly where it needed to be, and these guys, they understand what's going on. And so a lot of it comes back to that. It's really just, they have experience at this point with all these different heroes. They know when you've got a hero that's complicated, it's gonna take some time to click, or when it's easy, and they keep an eye on it and then adjust things as needed. You can also see that they're not shy about making balance updates when we need to, and even full hero reworks. I mean, at this point, I think we've reworked more than half the heroes in the game since the launch of the game itself, just in different ways as our philosophy changed and as the meta has shifted. Heroes has had some really exciting things happening with just esports in general over the last year. The announcement of HGC and that kicking off. I know they're trying to expand it into other regions as well, you know, as just before it makes sense for each of the different regions. But that's been fantastic for us. It's really gotten this kind of the stability and consistency that wasn't there before. And you're seeing this as the teams are just getting better week by week. It's been absolutely amazing. My go-to is always Zagara. I love Zagara. She's been fantastic for me. She's my main. She's kind of out of the meta at this point, but I just love I love the creep. I love being the lane bully. I just love her entire kit, and she's always been one of my favorite characters from the StarCraft universe anyway, so I have a lot of fun with her. So we've actually we've done some really cool stuff with the tutorial recently, where when you get in, we'll actually let you choose one of 3 heroes for free, and then you can actually play with them through the tutorial. We have heroes that are relatively simple to pick up, even though they're a little bit difficult to master, like Tyrande, Uther, and those type of things. Those are great ones to start off with. You also can't go wrong with like a Raynor or a Vala, kind of an assassin that's a little easier to just play. Again, there's some skill involved in making them great, but they're pretty easy to just get in, get your feet wet, and have fun with. Yeah, we've got so many things we want to do. I can't get into details on it, but we have large plans. I expect we'll probably have another summit like this in a year to talk about the next great big thing that's going on, maybe even sooner. But again, I can't get into details on it. But we mentioned a few things at BlizzCon that we want to bring in, including things like more social features like voice chat, improved party finder, and clans and guilds. So those would be things we're looking forward to. Yeah, I mean, the game has evolved so much over the last 2 years, which is why we're calling it Heroes of the 2.0, or Heroes of the 2.0, Heroes of the Storm 2.0 at this point. It really is a very different game than when we first launched. There's been so many improvements. There's never been a better time to play the game, not just from a gameplay standpoint, but just everything that you can do with the new progression update, and it's even more free to play than it was before.